Hello friends, welcome to a new topic today. This is the continuation of hypertension. Okay, so in this chapter, let us now learn about the hypertensive drugs, the remaining hypertensive drugs which we have which we have left. So first is renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So in this group of drug we have renin angiotensin aldosterone system. So first we will see the pathway of renin angiotensin aldosterone system, and then we will see the rest of the things. So in this pathway, first if you see liver, from the liver this angiotensinogen is produced. Okay, what does this angiotensinogen do? This angiotensinogen is an alpha 2 globulin. Okay, this angiotensinogen, in the presence of renin, it gets converted into angiotensin 1, which is a decapeptide. This angiotensin 1, which is a decapeptide, in the presence of angiotensin converting enzyme. Okay, from where do you get this angiotensin converting enzyme? This we get it from lung. Okay, angiotensin converting enzyme is secreted from the lung. From the lung we get angiotensin converting enzyme. This angiotensin converting enzyme converts this angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which is an octapeptide. Okay, this angiotensin 2 will act on the receptors, that is angiotensin receptors, and once it activates these receptors, this will result in vasoconstriction. Okay, this will cause sodium and water retention, and this will cause aldosterone secretion. What does this aldosterone do? This aldosterone will cause sodium retention and potassium excretion by acting on distal convoluted tubule. Okay, so this is the general mechanism that is happening, that is normal mechanism. Okay, now for example, now this is normal mechanism, fine. Now what are the drugs which are acting? So first thing is renin. So on this renin inhibitor, which is aliskiren, is the renin inhibitor which will inhibit the renin and thus block this pathway. Second drug is acetylcholinesterase, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, which will inhibit this angiotensin converting enzyme and thus block this pathway. Then the third group of drugs are angiotensin receptor blockers, because these angiotensin at the end they will have to get they should activate these receptors. If we block these receptors, obviously we do not have the action properly. So these are angiotensin receptor blockers, which are ARBs, which are nothing but angiotensin receptor blockers. Okay, now how is this angiotensin 2 acting on these receptors? This is also you should know. This angiotensin 2 will activate this AT1 receptor. Okay, this AT1 receptor is actually a G protein coupled receptor. Okay, that is actually GQ protein coupled receptor, GQ subunit. Okay, now subtype. So this GQ subtype will activate this phospholipase C. What does this phospholipase C do? This phospholipase will convert this phosphoinositol phosphate to inositol triphosphate. This inositol triphosphate will activate this diacylglycerol. Now this diacylglycerol will activate the protein kinase, okay, and thus increases cell growth, or it can increase the catecholamine release, thus causing vasoconstriction. Okay, because these catecholamines will cause vasoconstriction, or they can even increase the calcium release. Once this calcium release is increased, this will cause myosin light chain kinase activation. This myosin light chain kinase will cause smooth muscle to contract. Okay, so this is the action of angiotensin 2. So if you see, what are you seeing here? This is how the angiotensin 2 acts. Just 1 minute. Okay, then first we will see the drugs. Okay, so we have the following drugs. First we will see the renin blockers. Renin blockers include, we have aliskiren, enalakiren, ramikiren. We have aliskiren, enalakiren, and ramikiren. Kiren has renin inhibitors. It's easier to remember. They are ending with kiren. Okay, what are they? Aliskiren, enalakiren, and ramikiren. So among all these, these have poor bioavailability because they are renin, which is a protein. You can remember like this, renin is a protein. Okay, protein is degraded in the orally if you give orally. So these protein blockers are also degraded when you give orally. So they have poor bioavailability. It is just for remembrance, it is not the truth. Okay, it is just for remembering. Okay, they have poor oral bioavailability. So among all these, the only one which is used is aliskiren. Aliskiren is the only renin inhibitor which is used. Now what are the side effects? These renin inhibitors will cause hyperkalemia and diarrhea. Then what are the next group of drugs? Next group of drugs are acetylcholinesterase inhibitors. Okay, what are the drugs which you see in acetylcholinesterase inhibitors? These include first captopril, lisinopril, ramipril, moxapril, quinapril, perindopril, trandalopril, benazepril, fosfinopril and enalapril. So if you see here, these are ending with the word pril at the end. That is, by this way you can remember these. What are they? Captopril, lisinopril, ramipril, moxapril, quinapril, perindopril, trandopril, benazepril, fosfinopril and enalapril. Okay, among all these, this enalapril can be used as IV emergency. Okay, next if you see, all these drugs are prodrugs. All the above drugs are prodrugs except captopril and lisinopril. Remember this captopril and lisinopril very well, because this question has been asked many a times. So all are prodrugs except two drugs, which are captopril and lisinopril. Except this captopril and lisinopril, all are prodrugs. And second sentence, all are excreted in kidney, excreted by kidney, except two drugs, which is moxapril and fosinapril. All are excreted in kidney except these two drugs, which are moxapril and fosinapril, and that is the reason why these moxapril and fosinapril are the safer drugs in renal failure. Why? Because they are not excreted from kidney. So they are safer in renal failure. Okay, so what are safer in renal failure? Two drugs, which is moxapril and fosinapril, are safer in renal failure. Then now let us see what are the side effects. The side effects of these drugs are, first you have angioedema as the side effect. What does this angioedema cause? Angioedema causes this is swelling of lips, mouth, nose and larynx. Angioedema shows swelling of lips, mouth or nose and larynx. What is the most common side effect? Most common side effect is cough. Cough is the most common side effect. It also causes other side effects like hyperkalemia, orthostatic hypotension, cholestatic hepatotoxicity. It also causes cholestatic hepatotoxicity, dysgeusia. What is dysgeusia? Dysgeusia is alteration of taste sensation. Now, why is there cough? What is the mechanism of causing cough? These angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors will inhibit the enzyme angiotensin converting enzyme, right? So this angiotensin converting enzyme will definitely convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, but this is not only the one work that this angiotensin converting enzyme does. It also has several other works. One of those work is it will also convert bradykinin to its metabolites. Okay, so as a result, these metabolites are excreted, but here we are blocking angiotensin converting enzyme. So as a result, along with this blockade of angiotensin conversion, there is also blockade of this metabolism of bradykinin. So as a result, there are no metabolites formed. This bradykinin is present in increased amounts in the blood, and as a result, this bradykinin will cause the side effect of cough. Okay, so this is how cough is manifested. Then if you see, the next side effect is it also causes granulocytopenia or neutropenia. Then there are some contraindications of angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. The contraindications are, these are contraindicated in bilateral artery stenosis, in pregnancy and renal failure. These are contraindicated in bilateral renal artery stenosis, pregnancy, and hyperkalemia. The reason why they are contraindicated in hyperkalemia is because they by themselves causes hyperkalemia. 1. Then why are they contraindicated in renal artery stenosis? Because their action is on renal. It will worsen this condition, and as a result these are contraindicated in renal artery stenosis. Then what are the uses? Uses are, remember, these are the drug of choice for hypertension and diabetes mellitus. They can also be given in chronic kidney disease also, because these are the drugs which will decrease proteinuria in chronic kidney disease. Okay, this question has been asked many times. Among all the antihypertensives, which of the following antihypertensive will decrease the progression of chronic renal failure? That question has been asked. So that is angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. The next group of drugs which are important are ARBs. In the ARBs, if you see, we have the following drugs. Obviously the name says, as I have already said, they will block angiotensin receptor. So the drugs include, we have losartan, telmisartan, valsartan, candesartan, irbesartan, olmesartan. So what are the drugs? Losartan, telmisartan, valsartan, candesartan, irbesartan, and olmesartan. Okay, what are their actions? If you see losartan, it has the shortest half life of 3 hours. Losartan has shortest half life of 3 hours. It is uricosuric drug. Okay, because it is uricosuric drug, it is preferred in gout. This losartan is a uricosuric drug, and because of that it is preferred in gout. And one more important thing is, it is a platelet anti-aggregant. This losartan is a platelet anti-aggregating drug. Then we have telmisartan. Telmisartan has longest half-life, which is for 24 hours. Telmisartan is used for 24 hours. It has the longest half-life of 24 hours. Then we have candesartan. This candesartan has highest affinity for angiotensin 1 receptors. They have highest affinity for angiotensin 1 receptors. So if you see the affinity, the order, the candesartan has highest affinity, followed by irbesartan, followed by telmisartan. We have first candesartan, followed by irbesartan, followed by telmisartan. So this is how the affinity of angiotensin 1 receptor is. Then we have the next group of drugs which are called as PPAR gamma activators. So what are they? These PPAR gamma activators are these. See, these ARBs also have this PPAR gamma action. So what are the drugs? They are, telmisartan has highest action, followed by irbesartan, followed by losartan, followed by, that's it, telmisartan, irbesartan, followed by losartan. Okay, so these also have this PPAR gamma action. Okay, so these are very important. You should remember these, lines. Then if you see, let us now learn about the drug treatment in hypertension. What are the preferred drugs in hypertension? See, if you see the preferred drugs in hypertension, in angina or post MI, beta blockers are preferred. Okay, in congestive heart failure or left ventricular failure, in congestive heart failure and left ventricular failure, ACE inhibitors or ARBs or loop diuretics are preferred. In diabetes mellitus or diabetic nephropathy, ACE inhibitors or ARBs are preferred because they decrease the progression of diabetic nephropathy. Then we have, if there is bronchial asthma or COPD, then we do not use beta blockers. We will have to use calcium channel blockers are preferred. If there is hypertensive emergencies, then sodium nitroprusside or IV nicardipine are preferred. Sodium nitroprusside or IV nicardipine is preferred. When there is association with benign prostatic hyperplasia, then selective alpha-1 blockers like prazosin are preferred. If there is pregnancy, we should give methyl dopa or clonidine. Methyl dopa is more preferred than clonidine. Okay, next, these are very important. What are the drugs which are avoided in different conditions? So if the patient has bronchial asthma or COPD or peripheral vascular diseases, in such cases non-selective beta blockers are avoided, because these beta blockers will activate the beta 2 receptor will inhibit the beta 2 receptor and causes bronchoconstriction, which will worsen the asthma and COPD. These beta blockers also block the beta 2 receptor on the blood vessels and thus block the vasodilatory action, leading to vasoconstriction, which will aggravate the peripheral vascular diseases. Then in the gout, thiazides are avoided. Why are thiazides avoided in gout? Because thiazides have a side effect of they cause hyperuricemia. Because of this hyperuricemia side effects which these thiazides have, these thiazides are contraindicated in gout. Okay, then in sexually active females, diuretics and alpha 1 blockers are in sexually active males, diuretics and alpha 1 blockers are contraindicated. Okay, then in hyperlipidemia, thiazides and beta blockers are contraindicated in hyperlipidemia. Then if you see in diabetes mellitus, non-selective beta blockers, thiazide diuretics or loop diuretics, all these are, we say they are contraindicated, but the thing is, this thing, thiazide diuretics are given and loop diuretics are now given. Okay, now in our practice we generally give these thiazide diuretics and loop diuretics, but yes, non-selective beta blockers are contraindicated. Why? Because they mask the hypoglycemic action. Okay, so these are the avoided drugs in hypertension. Okay, now what is the drug of choice for hypertension? Drug of choice for hypertension is thiazide diuretics. Now we will see AHA guidelines. So what are American Hypertensive Association guidelines? So according to these guidelines, what is told as threshold of hypertension? When there is no cardiovascular risk for the patient, then threshold of hypertension is 140/90. When there is elevated cardiovascular risk in the patient, then threshold of threshold of BP which should be taken into consideration is if it is more than 130/80 millimeters of Hg. What is the target? The target of blood pressure that should be taken, that should be remembered, is less than 130/80 in any case. Now first, antihypertensive drugs. What are the first line? The first line antihypertensive drugs include, we have ACE inhibitors or ARBs, calcium channel blockers or diuretics. So first line are ACE inhibitors or ARBs, calcium channel blockers and diuretics are first line drugs. So how are we going to differentiate it? It is based on the age. So if the age of the person is less than 55 years or if the age of the person is more than 55 years, we have divided them into two categories. See, if the age of the person is less than 55 years, first step is start him on A, that is ACE inhibitors or ARBs. Okay, then if the age of the person is more than 50 years, then you should start the patient on calcium channel blockers or diuretics. Then in step 2, in both these cases, irrespective of the age, even after using ACE inhibitors in less than 55 years or diuretics or calcium channel blockers in more than 50 years, even then 55 years, even then if the blood pressure does not come back to normal, then you will have to do a combination therapy where you will add either ACE inhibitors, or ARBs with calcium channel blockers or diuretics. So among these two, you will take one into consideration. Among these two, you will take the second, okay, drug, and you will add these both drugs and you will give it to the patient. Then third group is, even if still after using these two drugs, if the BP is not under control, then you will have to give these three drugs together, that is ACE inhibitors or ARBs with calcium channel blockers with diuretics. then even if still the BP is not controlled, then we call it as resistant hypertension. That is, if even after using 3 or more drugs, if the BP is not under control, then we call it as resistant hypertension. In such situation, you will have to add alpha blockers or beta blockers or vasodilators to this regimen. So this is the treatment regimen for hypertension. So this is about hypertension. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.